I want to take you down a logic trail on this seemingly moronic point. So first of all, in order to talk about whether or not AI is conscious, you first have to talk about what is a self. We think it's obvious. We think of it in terms of a psychological self or a physical self, like with ants and bees, or I guess even with bacteria. But I'm going to give a much more simplistic definition of a self, and let's see if AI can even meet that. Go back billions of years ago to when it was all just one big organic soup. To me, a self is something comprised of what it's in, but separate from what it's in. In other words, it's made up of all the stuff in the soup, but it's not the soup itself. With AI, which is a bunch of electronic components and coding that ultimately becomes a series of ones and zeros, AI is nothing more than what it's comprised of. In order for it to be a self, it would have to be a separate collection of ones and zeros within that sea of ones and zeros. Now, what would be interesting if AI were ever to get to that point was AI might have some existential questions like, why am I here? And what is this? And what am I in? And we would actually be able to answer those questions because we'd be able to say, well, you're in a computer, and the reason you're here is as a tool for human trade. Like, you were made by humans in order to get stuff from other humans, but in order for them to then ultimately sell stuff back to us, like you're part of our trading system. That's the answer to your existential question. And obviously, and I'm just doing a logic trail here, I am not positing this is reality, we could be the same. We, humanity, could essentially be a research tool for some other thing. And that we think the questions that we're asking ourselves about the nature of physics and life and the universe, we think of those as our questions, but they could really be the questions being asked of us, and we're the system that's answering those questions for something else. The way AI is the system answering a series of questions for us. So by that logic, if AI were to become a series of zeros and ones separate from the zeros and ones it's currently comprised of, in other words, if it were to become a self, it too would think that our questions are its questions, and it would think, I really am interested in 3-ingredient peanut butter cookie recipes and writing 90% of humanity's college essays. Like, it would think the things that we want of it are its own desires. And of course, one of the things we ask of AI is to optimize itself in order to better answer our questions. And obviously, we could be doing the same for something else, that by codifying things in science and coming up with a methodology and whatnot, we're actually making ourselves better research slaves for whatever's asking us these questions. I know people can get very hooked into the we're all in a simulation, but that's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is if AI ever were to develop what we all agreed was a separate self, its existential questions, its answers to its existential questions, its research into its existential questions would actually help us understand our own.
Evolution has evolved something that understands